So today's topic is speech, which also we call it indirect speech. As usual, we start with our introduction. So we are saying that this topic will focus on the reported speech, or what we call the indirect speech, and how a journalist can maximize on it in writing news items. Remember, this is English for beginning journalists, not for journalists. And we are saying that a lot of news items are written in reported speech, or what we call indirect speech. Why? Because we have writers going outside to collect news. So when they collect news, they report that news to us. So most of the news items or news stories are written in indirect or reported speech. Therefore, it is very crucial for a journalist to learn how to use them. It's very important. It's very vital. It is of great importance that you know how to use what we call indirect or reported speech. This will make their work easier and enjoyable. If you know how to use the direct or indirect speech, it will make your work easier and also enjoyable at any particular media house. So when you get a job in a media house, it will not give you problem. You will feel like this is something that you have been doing every now and then. So it will make your work easier and enjoyable. So apart from that, we have what we call objectives. So one of the objectives of this particular unit is that by the end of this topic, you should be able to appreciate the importance of indirect or what we call direct speech. You must be able to appreciate the importance of direct or indirect speech. Again, you must be able to understand the difference between reported and direct speech. You must be able to understand the difference between reported speech and direct speech. Then the other thing is that you must be able to write articles in reported and direct speech. Remember, once you know how to write stories in direct or indirect speech, you will be able to enjoy even after getting a job in a media house. It will become very easy for you to actually do it. So without wasting time, we can actually define what reporting speech is, or what we call reported speech is. So reporting speech accurately and clearly is an essential journalistic skill. So all of us need to have this particular skill. It is essential. The word essential means what? The word essential simply means that it is vital. It is what we call indispensable. It is important. It is crucial, and it is critical. So you can actually see that it is usually very critical or crucial or important or vital or essential to do what? To learn this particular kind of skills. You must be able to handle both direct quotes and indirectly reported speech. You must be able to handle both of them, the direct quote and what we call the indirect reported speech. So we use indirect or reported speech when we report what people have said. We use them when we are reporting what people have said. We also use a reporting verb, like, for example, tell in reported speech. We use reporting verb like say or tell in reported speech. So let's look at what we call direct quotes. Direct quotes. Let's look at direct quotes. Remember, we are going to look at direct reporting speech and direct and indirect. Direct is words that have been said by a person, the exact words that have been said by a person. And when you talk about direct quotes, direct quotes, they're usually put in quotation mark, and then the name of the person who said those words is put there. Like, for example, if we treat this disease normally, no, if we treat this disease normally, it's going to treat us abnormally. You see, that is a quote that has been said by Mutahi Kagwe. So that is a direct quote. So direct quotes. So when you quote a person for the first time, introduce them before the quote. You must introduce them before the quote. So these are the rules of what we call the direct quotes. That when you quote a person for the first time, make sure that you introduce them before the quote. For example, maybe we can say, let me put it there so that we can all see. For example, maybe we can say, John Smith, comma, the leader of the council said, of course, I refuse to resign. You see, when you look at John Smith, the council, the leader of the council, you can see his words are put in quote. Or you can say, of course, I refuse to resign. Your sentence can start with, of course, I refuse to resign. John Smith, the leader of the council, said. Or John Smith, the leader of the council, said, of course, I refuse to resign. You can actually see the words are put in quote, meaning that these were the exact words of this guy called John Smith. That's why we are calling them direct quotes. In direct quotes, we quote what the person has said, the exact words. The next thing is that subject to house style, you can use says instead of said.
Proceed.
Subject to house style. Steven, you can put off your microphone unless you have a question. Good. So we are saying subject to house style, you can use says instead of said. Subject to house style, you can put says instead of said. When you talk about house style, a house style is the way or is a traditional way, or it's a style by which the media house presents its news or writes its news. So every media house has got its own house style. It's like you at home. The way and the rules at your home are different from the rules at another person's home or the rules at your friend's home. So if you eat supper at 7 p.m., just remember not everybody eats supper at 7 p.m. Some eat at 9, other 10, other 11. So that is your own house style. So the same case with media houses. They have their own house styles in which they present their news. So subject to the house style, you can use says, or you can use what we call said. So we can say subject to a house style, I'm projecting that one there. So subject to the house style, you can use the word says instead of said. So based on the house style. So some house style will allow you to use says, other will allow you to use said, or other house style will actually allow you to use both, depending on the media house that you're working for. For example, John Smith said, no. For example, we can say John Smith, the leader of the council, says, I refuse to resign. You see, it is different from the first one. The first one says, John Smith, the leader of the council, said, of course, I refuse to resign. This now, the sentence that I've just projected says, John Smith, the leader of the council, says. So there is says, I refuse to resign. So based on the house style, you can write it like that. Also, based on the house style, you can use the short form of You can use the short form. For example, the leader, council leader John Smith says, I refuse to resign. So you see now we are using council leader. It is the short form of the leader of the council. So based on the house style, again, you can use what? The short form to quote someone. Like we have said, council leader John Smith says, I refuse to resign. But you're supposed to also note that the style works best, the house style works best when the description is short and since the style is supposed to be short and snappy, avoid prepositions such as of. Remember we talked about parts of speech. Yeah, parts of speech. We talked about prepositions. So since the style is supposed to be short, as far as you can shorten the house style, we are saying since the style is supposed to be short and snappy, avoid prepositions such as of. Like here in our statement, we are saying the leader of the council, John Smith. So avoid the word of, prepositions such as of. The next thing is that since the short description functions as a title, it does not combine well with the real life or with the real title. So council leader Dr. John Smith should be avoided. And the last one is that later in the story variation is possible. So you can say, he said, I have done nothing wrong. For example, you can say he said, I have done nothing wrong. Or I have done nothing wrong, he said. Just like what we said, especially when you're talking about John Smith. We said that the sentence, John Smith, the leader of the council, said, of course, I refuse to resign. It can also be, I refuse to resign. John Smith, the leader of the council, said. So you can still put it like that. Any question? Yvette? Yvette, is there any question?
No.
So these are the points to note. You're supposed to note that the style works best when the description is short. Oh, this one we have already said. The description is short. We have also said that since the style is supposed to be short and snappy, avoid using the prepositions such as of, and also since the short description functions as a title, Things like council leader, Dr. Smith should be avoided. And then later in the story variation, later the story variation is possible. You can variate or you can vary your story. Like for example, he said, I have done nothing wrong. Or you can say, I have done nothing wrong, he said. And because the quote is a complete sentence, the comma comes before the second quote mark, replacing the full stop in the original. So I hope that one is clear. So reported speech, we go to reported speech. So when you talk about reported speech is what we call reported speech is the traditional way of reporting speech indirectly to move most tenses one stage back. To move most tenses one stage back. For example, I suppose, this is a quote, I suppose electoral reform. No, I support electoral reforms. For example, let me put it there. I support electoral reforms. I support electoral reforms. How do we put it in reported speech? Emma, I support electoral reforms. How does it become when it is put in reported speech? Emma, we are waiting.
He said that. Just a minute. He said that he support electoral reforms.
Is that correct? Irene?
You are now unmuted.
He said that he supports electoral reforms.
Stephen? How do you put it? I support electoral reforms. If you are to put it in reported quotes, in reported speech. We are waiting.
He supports electoral reform.
Yvette?
He said that he supports electoral reforms.
So the correct answer is he said he supported electoral reforms. Remember, it is reported speech. Support becomes supported. Support becomes spotted. Support becomes supported. Or it can become like this. You can put it like this. No. That one is not right, because there is another example here. I have always supported electoral reforms. So how does this one become? I'm putting it down there so that you can actually put it in reported speech. So there it is. I have always supported electoral reforms. It becomes like, how does it become? Yvette, we are waiting.
He said he has always supported electoral reforms.
Now repeat it again. Say it again.
He said he has wait. He said he has always supported electoral reform.
Now, when you put it in when you talk it in a very loud voice, don't you realize that there is a mistake that you're making when you say it loudly? Have you realized that there is a mistake somewhere that you're making? Can you say it loudly again? Yvette, say it again loudly, and then note the mistake that you are making. If you want to know whether you're making a mistake in a sentence, say it loudly. You will come to realize that there is a mistake somewhere that you're making. So Yvette, rectify your sentence and say it again.
He said he always supported electoral reform.
Irene?
You are now unmuted.
He said that he has always supported electoral reforms.
There is something that you're not saying. I have always supported electoral reform. Irene, put off your microphone, yes. Now, I have always supported electoral reforms. So if I was to put it, I will put it like this. He said that he had always supported electoral reforms. He said that he had always, not he has become had. He has always supported electoral reform. Another question is this one. Another question is this one. Now this one goes to Emma. Emma, don't put off your microphone. I will always support electoral reforms. How does it become? Or how do you put it in a reported speech? I will always support electoral reform or reform. Emma, how do you put it?
He said that he would always support electoral reforms.
Clap for yourself. You have really tried. Eh? He said that he would always, because will changes to would. He would always support electoral reforms. So with simple past, there is always no change. When you talk about the simple past tense, there is no change. Like for example, I supported electoral reform until I became a leader of the party. Like for example, when we say I supported electoral reform until I became a leader of the party, it usually becomes as he said he supported electoral reform until he became leader of the party. Emma, switch off your microphone, please. Let me mute you. Emma, nina kumute unaji-unmute. That is bad. So he said, we are saying that with simple past, there is always no change. For example, I supported electoral reform until I became a leader of the party becomes, he said he supported electoral reform until he became the party of the leader. No, the leader of the party. So there are general points here to note. Let me put them there so that we can go through them together. general points to note here. So these are the general points that you need to note. Number one of the point that you need to note is, in general, where speakers say things that are nonsensical are things that are not making sense, obscure or ambiguous, report their words indirectly. So if you are going to report, to get news from the field, and then you see the speaker is speaking things that are not making sense, it is always good to do what? To report their words indirectly, telling the speaker what they intended to say. Like I remember the President Mwai Kibaki. We all know President Mwai Kibaki. President Mwai Kibaki used to speak. He used to speak, and at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what has he said? Because he would speak and he would say things, and then things that you would not even understand what he's trying to say. But actually, journalists had some difficult time trying to put things together, trying to put his words together so that they can actually get the meaning. So in such a circumstance, make sure that you do what? You don't quote the reader, the speaker. Write those words in your own words without leaving the main point. Without leaving the main point. You can imagine somebody saying words that, just speaking, and this person who is speaking is not making sense, and then you quote him the way he is. What he has said. Actually, the person who will look stupid in this particular thing is you, the writer, is you, the journalist. So in such a circumstance, make sure that you put it in your own words. Put it down in your own words. For example, do not use refute to mean deny, since many people think that to refute an argument is to show that it is false. So if a director says, I refute your claim that my company is corrupt, so how are you supposed to write it? You are supposed to write it this way. The director denied that his company was corrupt. So when you hear somebody said, I refute. So what is the meaning of refute? To refute means what? To refute, in other words, it means, it can mean maybe this guy was trying to do what? To show denial, to say that I refuse, but he ended up using the word refute. So as a journalist, you should read the mind of this person or this director, and then put the words without losing the meaning. Put the words in your own words. Put them in your own words, so without leaving the meaning. Another point that you must know is that do not be afraid of repeating he says or he said in your story. Do not be afraid of repeating he says or he said in your story. The reader is far more likely to be irritated by awkward variants such as commented, remarked, and stated. When you use such words like commented, remarked, stated, above all, be careful, all those words, use them only where they are accurate and add weight or color to the story. So do not be afraid to use the word. So the main point is that don't be afraid to use the word he says or he said. But there are some words that when the reader is reading a particular story, he gets irritated. These words are like, for example, awkward, remarked, stated, above all, be careful with, claimed, asserted, and pointed out, explained. Those are words that actually when the reader is reading, he gets irritated, as opposed to when you write he says or he said. Another point, and another general point, is avoid adverbs, such as these word adverbs. Adverbs are words that explains how an action was done. Adverbs are words that explains, how actions were done, or that explains more about a verb. Those are what we call adverbs. So avoid adverbs so much. Do not write them mostly. Yeah? So I don't know how you read this particular word. So those are what we call reported speech. So avoid adverbs. Also another thing, avoid adjectives. Avoid adjectives. Avoid adjectives so much, because adjectives makes your work what? They make your work look as if it is not real, because adjectives are words that explain or that describes a noun. So when you say beautiful, beautiful is an adjective, and what is beautiful to you might be something that is very ugly to somebody else. Any question? Yvette, any question?
No question.
Irene and Emma, is there any question? And Stephen?
No question.
No question.
So if there are no questions, I will stop there, because that is the whole topic that we have covered. Remember that I've given an assignment. You need to do that assignment and submit it today. You need to do that assignment and submit it today. I'm going to open it right now, and as we speak, that is what I'm doing. I'm opening that assignment as we speak. So do that assignment. It is out of 10 marks. About Cat 1, I'll tell you when you will be doing your Cat 1. Goes well in advance when you'll be doing your Cat 1. Again, something else is that submit the assignment before 2:30. Submit that particular assignment before 2:30. If you are not able to submit that assignment, it is always good to speak before 2:30. Before 2:30, because after 2:30, it will be too late. After 2:30, that assignment submission will be too late, because the system will close itself down. It will actually close. It has a time limit. So if 2:30 is if 2:30 gets you without you having submitted the assignment, then it will not be submitted. The system will refuse. So do that particular assignment and submit it within time. Do not submit it through the email. Do not submit it via WhatsApp or any other social media. Submit that assignment via this particular platform. Submit it via this particular platform. Unless there is a question, I'll stop there. The reason why I'm stopping there is to give you much time for you to do that particular assignment, so that you don't say that I didn't have much time. So or you start saying that the time was limited. So you have how many hours? From 12:20 to 2. 12:20 to 2. You have 1 hour, 40 minutes to actually do that particular assignment. Yes, Yvette.
I have a question. What about the notes?
Which ones? These ones?
Not these ones, for the past topics. We haven't had any notes.
The first topics?
Not the first topics. The remaining topics that we have covered.
So I've opened notes for topic 1. Let me open notes for topic 2. I've already opened notes for topic 2. As we speak, that is what I'm doing. I have opened notes for topic 3. Topic 4, I am opening notes. I've opened notes for topic 4 and topic 5. So if you can refresh your page to check whether you can see the notes. Refresh your page and get to me as soon as possible right now.
I have seen them.
Yeah, good. Now you have the notes. Is there any other unit that you are not able to see the notes? Okay, the reason why we had hidden the notes, we had hidden the notes because of those students who are doing the exam, because they were enrolling into a wrong course to only access the notes. So we decided to hide those notes. So you might also be, you should not also be shocked when you find that in media management, media house management, there are some notes that have been hidden. So if you experience that, it is always good to get to me so that I open the notes. So because there is no any other question, let's go and do that particular assignment. This particular big blue button will remain open. If you have any question, you can ask. So si tuende tufanye hiyo assignment.